Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Danielle. For those of you who do not know me, hi, welcome. I'm so glad you stopped by today. Today I'm going to be ranking my Juvia's Place palettes. I have 8 Juvia's Place palettes within my collection, and I am somebody who is a huge fan of Juvia's Place quality. And I just want to say that I'm going to be rating them, you know, from my least favorite to my most favorite. We're gonna start with the 8th palette and work our way to the very top of my collection. I'm very kind of curious to see what you guys are going to think about how I rate these. I want you to leave comments down below if you agree, if you have one that is more your favorite, things like that. And if there's any of these palettes you want to see me play with, please leave that down in the comment section, because I would be happy to do a 3 looks 1 palette video with any of these eyeshadow palettes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. As Teresa's dad says, she is a Libra and she cannot make decisions. That is me also, and I think I have these in the order that I want them, so we're just gonna go with it. Ranking this as my least favorite Juvia's Place palette does not mean that it is not still my favorite, or that it's one that I like in my collection, because if it's in my collection still, chances are I'm going to keep it in my collection for a while. So let's go ahead and let's do this. I'm a little bit nervous about this. This could be kind of an interesting video. The first palette, or number 8, is going to be the Saharan by Juvia's Place. This is what this palette looks like right here. It is a very pretty palette. It does have quite a few red tones in it. I do really like this shade Kia right here. It is one of my favorite shimmer shades that Juvia's Place has ever put out. But the mattes in this tend to be a little bit drier, and it could be that I've just had this for a while and that is kind of playing into factor with all this. This is a really pigmented black, by the way, which, if you guys know, I kind of like when they're a little less so that I can build them up. But I also find this to be one of the most difficult color stories for me to work with, because the majority of the palette is shimmers, and I am somebody who likes either an equal amount of mattes and shimmers or more mattes than shimmers. So that is why this one landed in the 8th position. Okay, up next is number 7. This is the Afrique by Juvia's Place. Why do I keep telling you guys? Know it's Juvia's Place. I'm going to stop saying that. This is what it looks like. It is a palette that is full of primary colors and some unique shimmers. This one definitely has more mattes to shimmers. Look, there's even, I think I've used that shade once. I'm looking at it. It doesn't look like I've used it. Taken a dip into that. I've played with this palette several times. I do not like the yellow in this palette. I think it could be more pigmented. But this is not, when I think of Juvia's Place, this is not a color story that I would typically think of. This is not something that I reach for as often as I thought I would when I purchased it, but I like it over the Saharan palette. So that is why this one is in number 7. The next palette here is the Nomad Palette, and this is what it looks like right here. I do love the grunginess of this palette. That is something that I do like. I do kind of wish that we would have gotten like a greener shimmer. That is one thing that I wish for in this palette. I think the mattes work very beautifully. They blend out beautifully. The shimmers are beautiful, but this is a very neutral color story for me, and I'm somebody who loves color. So for the fact that this one is in 6th place, that's pretty good for this palette. It could have been in 8th place, it could have been in last, but it's not. So just take that with a grain of salt. This is a really well working palette. Then I think one that will surprise you, because I am somebody who, when this palette came out, I was super excited to get it, and that is the Wahala Palette by Juvia's. Why do I keep doing that? You know it's by Juvia's Place. I hate myself. This is what this one looks like. This is a very different layout for Juvia's Place. As you guys have seen, completely different. A lot more shades in this one than a lot of their other ones. It also has pressed glitters. And I do really like the pressed glitters in this. I love the matte formula in this, but it is just not my overall favorite color story by Juvia's Place. I just don't find it as unique as some of their other color stories. And that is why this one finds itself in 5th place. I guess when I go for a Juvia's Place palette, I really look for something that is unique and different, or something that just really, really grabs my attention. Then in our 4th place, this is the Warrior 3 palette. I love the artwork on this one. I love the artwork on all of them, but I think this one is my absolute favorite in terms of artwork. This is what this one looks like. This one is definitely a kind of rainbow palette. The only shade that I don't really like is this one. I do think it's interesting that we have two kind of blue shades with this kind of color story. It's a very different color story, because typically you would see some other shimmers that would really complement some of the other shades a little bit more. I love this shimmer. This one's one of my favorite shimmers. The mattes work really, really well. Sorry, I had to stop because my memory card was full, and here I'm back. I can't quite remember where we were, but I will just say this, that this color story, it's gorgeous. It's actually one of my favorites out of all of my Juvia's Place palettes. It's just not the top favorite, and these, going from the 4th to the very top one, was a very hard selection for me, so that is why this one finds itself in 4th place. Then we have the Zulu palette, and this is one of my favorites. That's why it's in 3rd place. We're at the top 3. I love this palette, you guys. I love the shimmers. I love how they kind of play off of each other. I love that you can do a more neutral look. You could do something very, very bright. These teals are just absolutely gorgeous. This palette has my favorite matte formula out of all of the Juvia's Place palettes. It's just really, really good. I find though, just like the Warrior 3 palette, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Juvia's Place, I think, has a hard time formulating those deep, rich purples. I just find them to be a little bit patchy. And that's partially why this one found itself in 3rd place. The next palette I have here is a newer one that I've played with several times off of camera, and I need to play with it on camera, and that is the Magic Mini palette. And that is what this one looks like. This one is our 2nd place contender, and it is 2nd place because it is just absolutely gorgeous. I love this. I can think of so many different color combinations to go with these shades. I love that it's warm tones to more cool tones. You could split the palette, you could do quads and still create an eye look. I really, really do like that. I know that this palette has a lot more shimmers than mattes, and that is not something I typically like, but the shimmer formula in this palette is awesome. It is one of my favorites. I really love these shimmers. I don't know if you guys can see, but a lot of these shimmers do have dips in them because that is how much I've used them. Now, before we go on to the top palette, I would like you guys to guess, which palette do you think is my #1 Juvia's Place palette? I am very curious because after seeing all the ones I've named, and there are still a ton of other palettes by Juvia's Place available, I'm curious to see which one you think I rated as #1. I'll give you guys a few seconds because I'm kind of excited to see what your answers are. Okay, drum roll. That was the worst drum roll ever. You're welcome. Are you guys ready to see my top choice of Juvia's Place palettes? Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Dun dun dun! It is the Tribe palette. I absolutely love this palette. I love that it's greens and oranges. I love that. I love this kind of grungy green brown, this duochrome shade right here. Oh, because it's like that green gold kind of shift. It's, I guess, not super duochrome, but it is one of my favorite shimmers ever. I love this color story. I love it. It's to me, it's very fall and kind of grunge, and I like that. I also do think that this palette pairs well with other palettes in my collection, and that is one reason that I do really like it. I think it goes well with the Nomad palette as well. I like to use those two in conjunction. But as far as color story and everything, this is my absolute favorite. This is my end-all be-all of my Juvia's Place palettes. The formula in this palette is absolutely amazing, and I was so excited when they came out with this, and so sad that I couldn't get it right when they came out with it, but I am glad to have it in my collection, and it is my top Juvia's Place palette. Well, what'd you guys think? Were you surprised at how I rated these palettes? Would you guys like to see me rating more of my eyeshadow palettes in my collection? I've thought about doing this with some of my indie brand makeup, some of my others, just to kind of rank and give myself an idea of what I think about each palette. It was interesting sitting down and coming up with the order I would put each of these palettes in. It was kind of a challenge for me because I do really like all of my Juvia's Place palettes. I am happy to own all of these, and I can't wait to own more Juvia's Place palettes because they are one of my favorite brands. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate each and every one of you that stay around to watch my videos. It really does mean a lot to me. If you guys could like this video, subscribe to my channel if you are not already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!